Today you had the opportunity to hear from some of our teachers to talk about funding and how that funding impacts the teachers at our schools. The question is, how do we fix this? The first thing is we really need to look at some of our numbers at our schools to understand the data. In order to do this, one of the things that HSTA did was we need to find comparable districts. And in order to do that, we looked at the 10 districts with the most similar cost of living and had population sizes that are similar to Hawaii. And so the first question is, how do we fund our schools and how do we compare? So what we did is we looked at the per pupil spending. That's the best way to do apples to apples comparisons between school districts. And for our 10 comparative school districts, they were from a high of $26,000 per pupil in Washington, D.C., and $25,000 in New York, $22,000 in Boston. And Hawaii, in the comparative year, was spending $12,834. There were some districts that were lower than ours, but those also had lower cost of living. Another way to compare it is to look at schools in Hawaii and how much do they spend on their per pupil spending. You have schools such as HPA and Punahou that spend $23,000, $24,000 a year, and Hawaii's public schools spend $14,000. But that is not truly an apples-to-apples comparison. First, this is their tuition costs and not their total costs. If you add in their endowments and other factors, and they don't have to pay for lunch and breakfast and buses and books for all their students. And the biggest thing is, comparatively, is this. One of the most expensive things that happens in Hawaii's public schools is special education. That consumes almost 23% of our budget. If you look at the actual per pupil cost for a regular education student, it's about $10,000. So the reality is, in Hawaii, it is expensive to educate children. But our private schools can spend 2 to 3 times as much on an education as our public schools do. The reality is our schools are underfunded, and that does have an impact. So what are the repercussions of this lack of school funding? One of the most important things is to look at the comparative salaries of those comparative districts. And so we looked at their salaries, and the first thing was beginning salaries. Hawaii's beginning salary is $46,601. That lacks, Hackensack was the highest of 54, and New York was 54 as well. There were 2 school districts that had a lower starting salary than Hawaii. But most of them did have more, and the average salary was higher than Hawaii's as well. For top salaries, again, all the districts had higher teacher salaries going all the way up to $116,000 in Hackensack, and New York $113,000. Only Oakland had less than Hawaii's $85,000 with $80,000. And I actually did contact Oakland. They have 100% medical. So that makes a big difference as well. And just to put it in perspective, last year those teachers in Oakland were in the streets, and they have a high teacher turnover as well. So I hope our model is not Oakland. So the biggest thing is, how do we compare teacher salaries? We have to do an apples-to-apples comparison. And so we put together this graphic. All of the 10 school districts all use years of experience. Hawaii is the only one that does not. But if you look at Hawaii's, you can find out how many teachers teach at each level, and we're able to compare salaries. So if you look at the salary schedule by years of experience and by educational attainment, this is what you'll see. Our beginning teachers in Hawaii make about $4,000 less than their mainland competitors. The real big difference, if you notice, is those 10 to 20-year teachers. These teachers, when I first saw these numbers, it both made me angry and sad at the same time. Our mid-level teachers are significantly paid less than their mainland counterparts, with anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000 less a year, with the highest one being a 20-year teacher with a master's plus 30 degrees, making $26,000 less a year than their mainland counterparts. This has a significant impact. If our teachers across, there was not one scale where we were paid more. And the reality is that when teachers do have the ability to move, they can move to districts that have lower cost of living and get paid significantly higher wages. So what is the impact of this? Look at the scale then. So starting teachers are $4,000 left, mid-career $15,000 to $25,000 left, and our most experienced are $10,000 to $15,000 less than their mainland counterparts. And this got to the point last year, and I would hope we never have to see this again, where we were actually ranked as the worst state for teachers. I'm sure that makes it very difficult to recruit. This is not something we should be proud of. So what is the high cost of low teacher salaries? And this is from the DOE employment reports. Our teachers are leaving. These are voluntary resignations, and you can see the trend. Our teachers are leaving in higher and higher numbers every single year. We have approximately, there was about 1,600 openings last year for teachers in Hawaii, and how do we fill them? The first thing we know is the most likely teachers to stay in our system are our local graduates. Those that go to our Hawaii colleges and graduates, But you can see that this number is decreasing as well, by almost a third. Less of our teachers that are graduating from our college, one, they're going into education, and two, when they graduate, to choose to teach in our public schools. So of the 1,600 openings, we can only fill about 400 of them from our local colleges, leaving that 1,200 openings. So then we go to the mainland and we grab another 400 to 500 teachers. But the research has shown consistently that these teachers will leave at a much higher rate. And so the turnover rate in some of our most needy schools is very high as well. So after we have those two groups of teachers, then we run out of all teachers with a license, and then we go to emergency hires. And you can see what is happening with emergency hires. Those teachers hired without a state-approved teacher education program has dramatically increased. From 2012 and 2013 to only 112, to last year we had 328 teachers in our schools that did not have a state-approved teacher education program. And this, again, is robbing from our future. A lot of these are our student teachers. So they one day want to go into education. But what's happening is they're being pulled out of their mentoring. That time that is so valuable when they are learning about how to become a teacher and having that mentor teacher with them on a day-by-day, they're pulling them out and putting them into the classroom by themselves. We know that mentoring and having that student teaching experience, research shows, keeps them in the classroom for longer periods of time. By doing this, we can make sure that we have a teacher in the classroom, but we're robbing our future. Because we want to have them in the classroom with a mentor teacher for a longer period of time, not a shorter period of time. But this is the most alarming statistic. After we've hired teachers with a state-approved teacher education program, either from Hawaii or from the mainland, after we've gone to emergency hires, we run out of teachers. And the amount of vacancies that we have is increasing dramatically, from 334 from 2012 to 531 this year. These vacancies, these teachers may not have any of the qualifications of the class that they are teaching. These are substitutes. From across the state, teachers have told me, Spanish teachers that have never taken Spanish, calculus teachers that have never taken calculus, and these are what our kids are learning. This has happened to my daughter 3 times in the last 2 years, where she has gone to Lima Intermediate and not had a teacher to teach her those subjects. Last year, she went an entire semester without a science teacher. And the problem is now we have so many substitutes into our classrooms that now in some areas we're having difficulties getting substitutes. In the Leeward Coast alone, they have, I think, approximately 140 substitute teachers without even a college degree. We have over 200 in the whole system that are substitutes without a college degree. This is not good for our students, and it is not a long-term solution. So what is the impact? This is a conservative number, but every day, approximately 10,000 students go to a classroom and do not have a qualified teacher. 500 students times 20 kids per class, and that's like 10,000. But if you add an emergency hire rate, you're looking at close to 20,000 kids that go to school every day and don't have a qualified teacher. For our special education students, it's even worse. 1 out of 7 special education teachers are not qualified. They have teachers brand new hire that don't have not even special education training doing IEPs. I mean, I'm a veteran teacher and I couldn't do that. To expect a new teacher to do that, that's just wrong. And the way is not distributed necessarily equally, that our most needy students are the ones that likely go without a qualified teacher. So what is the impact on our students as well? Because that's the biggest thing. Now, I'll be honest with you. This next slide is a slide that we've debated going back and forth at HSTA. We've often said that testing does not look at the whole child, but that is all we have right now. So if we look at our numbers using NAEP scores for the beginning, last year, on 4th grade reading, Hawaii was 46 out of 52 for NAEP reading. For 8th grade reading was even worse, 48 out of 52. The math scores are a little better than the reading, 35 out of 52 for math, for 4th grade math, and 36 out of 52 for 8th grade math. For science, 42 out of 47 in the nation. For 8th grade math, 43rd out of 47 in the nation. And the writing statistic is a little old, but it's 43 out of 46 the last time I did in 2007. And our ACT scores was 48 out of 51. Now for that one, not all states test as much as we do, but even the ones that do score better. How about graduation rates? Okay, and this is from Higher Ed Info. This is the transition and completion rates from 9th grade to college. This is the pipeline. Hawaii ranks third worst in the nation when it comes to having students from 9th grade to finish college in 50% of the time. United States average is about 21%, Hawaii is about 13%. So this is impacting our students. So just to finish up here, Hawaii schools are underfunded. Hawaii has a teacher shortage crisis. This is impacting our students. And our keiki deserve better. We need your help. There are things that this board has the power to change and can do now to try to prove this, and there are things beyond this power. HSTA will be going to the legislature this year with legislation to be able to fund our schools in a unique way that has not been proposed before. If we go alone, it's going to be a difficult haul. I know, though, that if the Board of Education and the Department of Education come in with us, advocate for with us, that's how we're going to make these changes. What we're going to be proposing is a little more than I have time for today. But I would love to be able to have the opportunity to speak to each of you about our proposed legislation this year. And I really hope this year when these bills are being heard, that the Board of Education will be there to testify along with us. Thank you.